morning, CenterSet Church. Come on, we are ready to worship. We got a reason to worship today. It is Easter. It is Easter Sunday. Come on, we sing. Hey. I was buried beneath my shame. Is this your story? Come on, sing it with me. Who could carry that kind of weight? Yeah, it was my tomb. It was my tomb. Till I met you. Hey, I was breathing, but not alive. Let me see you tap those feet. Come on, clap those hands at home, wherever you are. All my failures I tried to hide. Yes, I did. It was my tomb. Thank you, Jesus. Till I met you. Because he called your name. Come on. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave. Hey. Come on. Out of the darkness into your glorious day. What a glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave. Just like you. Out of the darkness into your glorious day. Hey. We got a reason to celebrate, church. Come on. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Now your mercy has saved my soul. Yes, it has. Thank you, Jesus. And now your freedom is all that I know. The old maid knew. The old maid knew. That's us, come on. Jesus, when I met you, you called me God. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave. Out of the darkness into your glorious day. Yes, I am. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave. Out of the darkness into your glorious day. Hey, what a glorious day. I got a reason to praise. I got a reason to worship. Yeah, come on, wherever you are. The story isn't over. Our God is risen from the dead. Come on, what a reason to celebrate. Hey, I needed a rescue. My sin was heavy, yeah. But chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter. I was an orphan. Now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open. But when you call my name, hey, I ran out of that grave. Hey. Out of the darkness into your glorious day. We're running, Jesus. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave. Yeah. Out of the darkness into your glorious day. Hey. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Father. We have hope in you. Come on, the story isn't over. The story isn't over. If you got your hope in Jesus, sing this with us. Come on. Yes, Lord. Our hope is alive, because you are alive. Yeah. We got a reason to worship. Come on. Yeah. Days may be darkest, but your light is greater. You light our way, God, you light our way. Yes, you do, Jesus. When evil is rising, you're rising higher, with power to save, with power to save. Yeah, there's so much power in this. Come on. You keep hope alive. You keep hope alive from the beginning to it. Your word never fails. You keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. Yeah, we sing. Oh, death had a stronghold, but your life was stronger. Rose from the grave, rose up from the grave. Yes, you did. When evil is rising, when evil is rising, you're rising higher with power to save, with power to save. Oh, 'cause you keep hope alive. You keep hope alive from the beginning to it. Your word never fails. You keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. There's hope today, church. Come on. There's hope in the morning. There's hope, yeah. In the evening, there's hope because you're living. There's hope because you're breathing. There's hope in the breaking. There's hope in the sorrow. There's hope for this moment. My hope for tomorrow. There's hope in the morning. There's hope in the evening. There's hope. Come on, 'cause you're living. There's hope because you're breathing. There's hope in the breaking. There's hope, hey, in the sorrow. There's hope in this moment. My hope for tomorrow. You keep hope alive. You keep hope alive from the beginning to it. Your word never fails. You keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. Oh, you keep hope alive. You keep hope alive from the beginning to it. Your word never fails. You keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. Yes, you are. We sing. You keep hope alive because you are alive. From the beginning to it, your word never fails. You keep hope alive because you are alive. Jesus, you are alive. Yeah, we got a reason to celebrate, church. Thank you, Lord.
All right, man, wasn't that fire? Give it up for our CS worship, though.
So good. Oh my gosh. Holy Spirit all up in here. Can we get excited about in-person gatherings, you guys? I'm so
go.
pumped that we get to gather again on a weekly basis. That in-person worship just hit different. You know what I'm saying?
100%. Come through starting today, 5 p.m. True Hope Church. We got the tacos, Jesus plus tacos plus swag, and the Easter egg baskets.
Yes.
Come through.
Yes, definitely. And now, take out your notebooks, take out your pen. Pastor Ali is about to preach the house down. So
Let's
get
go.
ready for a fire word.
Run it. Come on.
Good morning, church. Who is excited? Happy Easter, church. For those of you that are new, my name is Ali, my beautiful wife and I. We started CenterSet 3 years ago. Crazy that in my mind, we're still two. We spent the last year in this pandemic. I'm still a toddler in my mind as a church. But we created this church not only for Christians to grow in their faith, but unchurched people to explore their faith. So maybe you're new to church, maybe you're here for the very first time. Believe me, we created this church environment. Every element of our worship experience was created for you and mine. My hope is that you get encouraged, you get inspired, and you're challenged that Jesus is not just a good man, he is God. And what's crazy is a year ago, this global pandemic, coronavirus, COVID-19 began. And remember a year ago, we thought, oh, it's going to be 2 weeks long, maybe 3 weeks, right? And Like hand sanitizer was the new currency. We started taking pictures of our toilet paper, right? And it was, we were coping with how to deal with shelter in place. And we did push-up challenges on Instagram, right? We frothed our coffee, remember? Toilet paper became more important than like the Bible. Like it was like the currency of the day. And maybe some of us became 13 like myself and we went back on TikTok, right? And we started doing dance challenges. Like we thought this was like this is gonna be 2 weeks tops. Right. Yeah. And then now here we are 56 weeks later, right? And it's not just like fun and games anymore. It's been full of pain and 30 million Americans have got COVID-19. Wow. We're not even counting the number of people that got sick but never went to the hospital to get tested. 550,000 people have died. Breonna Taylor was sleeping but was murdered. George Floyd was crying out for help and had a knee to his neck. The largest protest in the world happened this last summer with BLM, and then was followed by a few months later by the largest protest in the world, the Indian rural farmers. And this last year has been filled with so much pain and suffering when it began with games and TikTok. And then about a year ago, this last April, I was watching the news with my wife. We were glued. We couldn't turn away. But it got to a point where we just got depressed. It was so negative and it was so like emotionally draining. We just had to turn the TV off because it was too much. But I remember there was this one story that I'll never forget. A man in Italy by the name of Mr. P. And the newscaster on the news channel, he was like, in other news, which is the title of my sermon today. Turn to your neighbor and say, in other news. In other news. You know, that's my hope today is no matter how dark it is, in other news, the tomb is empty. And this news anchor was like, in other news, he was pivoting, he was changing the subject, and began to talk about this man named Mr. P in Italy. And he was the first one at the time that had accomplished this feat. Now there have been several others, but he was 102 years old, and he beat coronavirus. Wow. But it's better than that. He went through the Holocaust, and he survived. And it gets better than that. He survived the Spanish flu in 1918. Wow. The moment this dude was born, Satan was trying to kill him. And God was like, you're not going until I say you. I was so encouraged by this story. All I heard for a month was negativity and death and the world is ending. And this one man's story encouraged me. For 2 days, I was like, if God did it for Mr. P, he can do it for me. I mean, that's what good news does, is it gives you hope. It lifts you up again. And I don't know if I would love that story if I hadn't been hearing the negativity. I want you to write this idea down. Bad news makes good news better. It's just the truth. And I'm not saying good news is not good. Good news is always good. Right. But when you put it in the context of bad news makes good news even better. And this is true about God even. God's a healer. That's good news, right? Yeah. But it's better news when you're sick and you need healing. Right. It's good news that God's a deliverer. But it's even better news when you're stuck, you're addicted and broken, and he's going to set you free. It's good news that God is a forgiver. Everybody needs that. But it's even better news when you're a sinner in need of forgiveness. It's good news that God's a redeemer and restorer. It's even better when your marriage is broken and it needs to be healed. It's good news that God is a resurrecting God. But it's better news when you realize you are spiritually dead. Bad news. Listen. Makes good news even better. And that's the story of Christmas. That's the story of Easter, forgive me. A little early. That's the story of Easter, that this last year has been filled with pain and suffering and death and injustice. And the good news of Easter is even better because of the bad news. I want to read you the Easter story because I know that there are so many of you watching from home, maybe here, you have silent pain. You have silent brokenness and you don't really have hope. You're coming to church and maybe God's going to speak to you, but my hope is that you would walk out of here not with hype, but with hope. And in Matthew chapter 28, starting at verse 1, it's this great story it says, after the Sabbath at dawn. Let me kind of give you context of what's going on. 33 years prior to that verse, God entered humanity. He came through a couple named Mary and Joseph. Mary was 14. She got braces on. She listens to Justin Bieber. Joseph is a hardworking carpenter. And these are the most unlikely people in the world to become parents to God. They didn't have sex. God, through the power of the Holy Spirit, impregnated. He did a miracle in the womb of Mary. And this family is poor, and they're on the wrong side of the tracks. Jesus, for the first 30 years of his life, lived in relative obscurity. He wasn't a general. He wasn't a president. He never wrote a book, never owned a home, never went to war. This man never ran for political office, yet this man flipped the world upside down and spent the first 30 years of his life building chairs and tables. It wasn't until his age of 30 that he left his vocation into his calling. And his calling was to come and die for us. That the wage of sin, the Bible says, is death. If I went to work somewhere, my wage is the payment that they give me. But our wage of sin, which means what we do, what we receive from disobeying God, is death. But God loves us. See, the bad news is that we're so bad that someone needs to die. It's either us or Jesus. The good news is that we're so loved by God, He doesn't want us to die. And so He came into our place, and He has died. They didn't take His life from Him. He laid it down willingly. And now He's been dead for 3 days. No one knows the resurrection's coming. See, some of you in that moment right now, life is dark, life is broken, and you don't see dawn. I want to read you the story and give you hope. It says, after the Sabbath, at dawn. Someone say, at dawn. On the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to the tomb. There was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven and going to the tomb, rolled back the stone. I love that. The angel, not man, the angel rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning. His clothes were as white as snow. The guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men. The angel said to the woman, I know he's dead, I know he's gone, but in other news, do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, He has risen. I love that. He is not here, He is risen, just as He said. You've got to understand the context of this bad news being delivered with some good news. The disciples have been following Jesus for 3 years. This man did miracles. This man raised the dead. The blind could see. The deaf could hear. The blind, it was remarkable. He took 2 pieces of sashimi and some naan and fed 5,000 people. Like, he did miracle after miracle. And now this guy is gone. And when Jesus died, their hope died. Their faith died. Christianity died. These 10 of his 12 disciples were fishermen. They literally abandoned Jesus and went back to their old job. Why? Messiahs don't die. Sons of God aren't supposed to die. And I thought Jesus was supposed to be different than a philosopher or a good sage. Like, why is He dead? And when Jesus died, their dreams died with it. You need to write this idea down. The darker the night, the brighter the morning. See, bad news makes good news even better. And the women, they come to the tomb, not because they're expecting the resurrection. No one is expecting this. Their Messiah wasn't supposed to die. They're just there to pay respects for this dead Savior. And some of you know this. Sometimes it has to get dark before it gets bright. Any dads here? We've got one right here. He knows the pain of your toddler waking up at 4 in the morning. It's pitch black, the devil's asleep, and only your toddler's awake. Why, Lord? Right? And the first time it's cute. The second time you're like, God, take this child back. I give it to you as a dedication, right? When it's a pattern, you're praying to not put them up for adoption. It's crazy. But when you're up at 4 or 5 in the morning, it is pitch black outside. And let me remind you, it is always darkest right before dawn. And when it's darkest and it feels hopeless and it feels like, man, it's just dark. The sun creeps over the horizon and it begins to fill the sky with light. Sometimes it has to get dark before it gets better. See, some of you are in a dark season of life, a dark season of your marriage, a dark season of your finances, and you don't have a hope. The story of Easter is not how the story ends. That dawn is coming. I remember in my neighborhood, there are these homes that every 3 or 4 homes, someone is remodeling. Some 50-year-old, 80-year-old will move out, and some young couple will move in, and they'll renovate the home. It feels like every 3 or 4 houses, someone is renovating. At the end of my street, there was this home that no one had lived in for 2 years. Thieves literally stole the windows and the doors. This house was condemned. The homeless people were defecating everywhere. They were building fires in this. The grass was 6 feet tall. It was like a horror movie house. The guy, he lost all value in the home, so he sold it because it was condemned. See, some of you, your life feels like that. It feels like God is demoing your life. That house had to be torn down before a new one could come up. Now, literally, it's the best house on the neighborhood. because everything is brand new. See, some of you are complaining about the death. Some of you are complaining about the decay. Some of you are complaining about the demolition, but God has to take the old out before He brings the new in. See, it's not just death. The Easter story is not a one-day story. It's a 3-day story. Yeah. Jesus died on Friday, and He was silent on Saturday. And the disciples lost hope. And some of you, let me remind you, you are in great company because our God does surprising things. Yeah. Dawn is coming. And what's so beautiful about the story is that the women, they come to the tomb not expecting a resurrection. They're just there to pay their respects. And anyone ever been to Disneyland? I remember 15 years ago when I first went to Disneyland, California, there was this amazing ride called Soaring Over California. Anyone have been on that? Yeah. It's great, right? Everyone knows. You strap into this thing in a dark room and you lift it 30 feet off the ground and wind starts blowing in your face because you're soaring over California. Water hits your face. Like, where's this water coming from? Because and then like it smells like orange. It's like makes life 3D. Right. Imagine if you're one of these women. This is like Old Testament terror in 3D. An angel shows up and there's an earthquake, right? And then he looks like lightning, and before electricity, he's as bright as the sun during dawn, right? The only people who have swords are on the ground and they're dead. And the angel looks at him and goes, "Don't be afraid." I'm like, what is this soaring over the Bible? What is this right here? This is crazy. Of course they're afraid. Their butt cheeks are clenched, afraid for their life. And the angel who has no empathy is like, "Don't be afraid." And I know that sounds like I'm saying that to you. Don't be afraid of the brokenness of your marriage. Wow. Don't be afraid of the brokenness of your career. And I'm telling you, the hope of Easter, I'm not just saying these things because I don't have empathy. I'm saying these things because I see what you don't see. Yeah. That the Easter story is not a one-day story. Yeah. It's a 3-day story. And the tomb, it was not keeping Jesus in. The angel rolled away the rock. Sometimes we think the angel had to roll away the rock so that Jesus could walk out. Come on. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. The author of life, the one who made rocks, needs an angel to move the rock. Come on. Yeah. The angel moved the rock because the rock, theologians say, is a metaphor for unbelief. Wow. It's an illustration that he was rolling away the obstacles to our faith. He was rolling away the things that were keeping us from believing. Because listen, there are a lot of good mentors, a lot of good philosophers, good sages. There's Krishna, there's Buddha, there's Muhammad. A lot of them say good things. None of them have conquered the grave, though. Yeah. See, I can take you to the Middle East. I can show you where Muhammad is buried. I can take you to the Middle East and show you where Abraham, the father of faith of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, I can show you where he's buried. Show me where the tomb of Jesus is. Because he doesn't have a grave. He didn't stay dead. This is the only reason Christians follow Jesus is not because he says good things. There's a lot of people on Instagram right now that are saying a lot of good things, but none of them have come back from the dead. The angel's not rolling away the stone to keep Jesus out, to keep him in, so he can come out. He's rolling away the stone so that we can go in, so that we can have faith, that we can have a relationship with Jesus. The rock was rolled away for us. And try to give some people hope. I know life is dark. I know it's darkest at dawn when it looks like your marriage is dead, your business is dead. And I'm telling you, some of you have lost loved ones. Maybe you lost a parent or a cousin or a friend, and it looks just dark and broken. Just like the news I was watching a year ago, I can't do this anymore. It's too emotionally draining. Let me give you some good news. Someone better than Mr. P, Jesus, who conquered the grave and came back. Dawn is coming. I know the facts say that Corona is real. I know the facts say that 30 million people got it, 500,000 died. But that's not the end of the story. Yeah. Come on. The end of the story is the tomb is empty and Jesus is alive. Yeah. And he's in the business of bringing dead things back to life. Yeah. That gives you hope today. And I love this story because the women are there and Jesus begins to talk to them. But before I read you that verse, I want to show you this verse in Matthew chapter 18 that is so powerful, just so encouraging me this week. See, there are two great commandments, great verses in the Bible. One is the Great Commandment, one is the Great Commission. Yeah. The Great Commandment is to love the Lord your God with all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your strength. The most important thing to do is love God with all of your heart and love other people. Yeah. But then there's also what's called the Great Commission. It's our marching orders, the very last thing that Jesus said. He said, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Yeah. But right before he says that in Matthew 28, verse 18, it says, all authority, someone say all authority, has been given to me in heaven and on earth. And I know, as an American, I can look at the politics, the division in our country, and it's like, man, it's hopeless. I can look at the injustice in our country that's hasn't just been around for like a few years. It seems like it's been around for like decades upon decades, centuries of injustice. Right. And look at how we were in a recession before coronavirus, and we're just being kept afloat by these PPP loans and these economic stimulus packages. Like, we are in a dire situation. And you can look at all the death, you can look at all the negative news and feel hopeless. And I'm here to remind you that Jesus has all authority. That no matter how divided our country is, Jesus has authority over the politics. As evil as the dictators in the world are, Jesus has authority over every country, over every dictator. He has authority over the stock market. He has authority over natural disasters, over any disease. Jesus has all authority. That should encourage you. You're not following a good teacher. You're not following a good man. You're following the God-man. And he conquered the grave. And dawn is coming. And he's in the business of bringing dead things, things that look hopeless. Even when you don't have the hope, even when you don't have the encouragement to believe for more, his life gives you that hope. Why? Because he came out of the grave. And look what Jesus says in Matthew chapter 28, verse 16. This is right after the angel. The angel is saying this, come and see. Someone say, come and see. Come and see. The place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell. Someone say, go and tell. Go and tell. I love how fast the angel says, come and see, go and tell. I get this question asked all the time. Pastor Ali, when should I start sharing my faith? Like after a year, after I read the Bible for a little bit, maybe mature. No. The moment you accept Christ, you share. It's come and see, next sentence, go and tell. See, so think about this. 5 years ago, there was a restaurant in Prune Yard that opened up. My wife and I started one of our favorite restaurants. It's called Pizzeria. Downtown Campbell. It's an Italian restaurant. It reminded my wife of more than any other restaurant of Southern Italy. It's gone now. Coronavirus killed it. Boo-hoo. But at the time, 5 years ago, she was like, nothing in America tasted like Italy except for this place. And we loved the place so much, we began telling everyone. We began to tell, this is the best. It's not Maggiano's. Trust me, right? It's not Sizzler with their pasta thing that they give you. This is real Italian. And this is what I'm trying to get in your heart. Your confession is contagious. The same way that we began to tell people about that restaurant, they started to go. God wants you to tell others about what he's done in your life. Now. Not a year from now, because your confession is contagious. And the gospel is not meant to be kept for you. It's meant to be told to everyone. The next verse says, he has risen from the dead and is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will find him. Now I have told you. So the women hurried away from the tomb, afraid, yet filled with joy. Afraid, I've only experienced that once in my life. I was 18 years old. My mom went to Iran for 10 weeks. My dad went to San Diego for 4. I'm 18. My dad hands me $200, says, don't die. I'm home alone. I don't have a driver's license, but I want to drive. So it's midnight. There's no cars on the road. I'm driving. I'm afraid, but I'm filled with joy. That's what I know what this verse means. They're afraid, yet filled with joy. And ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly, someone say suddenly. Suddenly Jesus met them, the risen king. Greetings, he said. They came to him, clasped his feet, and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, do not be afraid. Go and tell. Someone say, go and tell. Go and tell. Tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me. I remember when my wife and I first started dating, Pastor Yas is my ex-girlfriend, because she's no longer my girlfriend. She's my wife now. But when I was dating her, I began to realize men and women are so different. She's like, what do you do for fun, Allie? I'm like, Friday nights, invite the boys over, maybe a six-pack. We'll play video games till 1 a.m. That's a good time. Right? And I was a total bachelor. I'm just like, what do you do, honey? She's like, I go shopping. I'm like, for more than 5 minutes? She's like, yeah. Like that's how long I'd hold my breath, walk in the store, find something, try it on, buy it, and then walk out. Because if I didn't do it in 5 minutes, I felt like dying on the inside. She's like, we're going to go to San Francisco and we're going to shop all day. I'm like, this sounds like hell, right? So we go to San Francisco, and I thought she was going to take me to Zara or H&M, something like that. She took me to these, on the outside, they looked bootsy. They looked hood. I thought, I'm going to wear a bulletproof vest to go in here. Like, where are we going? But the moment we went inside, the clothes was amazing. I'm like, dude, why haven't you told me about this before? Like, we should tell all of our friends. She's like, no, you can't tell anyone. I'm like, why? She's like, that's what's so perfect about this place, that no one knows. It's undiscovered. That's what makes it great, is that no one knows about it. Thank God that Jesus doesn't have that heart. I love my wife. I'm not saying anything negative about that. We haven't told anyone about those pots. But that's not what the Easter message is about. God and the angel, they both say, come and see, go and tell. Come and see, go immediately. And I love that the gospel message is not just for some people, it's for all. We all need hope. We all need encouragement. And there are 4 things in this interaction that I want to put in your heart today that I need you to write down. Because some of you don't write it in your phone. You need to write it in a notebook. Because when you get to heaven, he's going to say, show me your notes. If you don't have notes, he's not going to let you in. Kidding, of course. But there are 4 things in this interaction that I want to put in your heart this morning. First one is meet Jesus. Someone say, meet Jesus.
Meet Jesus.
Let me read you the verse again. It says, suddenly Jesus met them. I don't know why you're here. Maybe you were invited by a friend, maybe a loved one, maybe you're dating a Christian and she's hot. Let me remind you that Jesus wants to meet you. Maybe you're here because a cousin invited you, or maybe like your roommate told you. Maybe you go to school with someone or you work with someone, and you're just here maybe for the free tacos or the free T-shirt. You're not even sure who Jesus is. Let me tell you, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, if there's one thing I want you to walk away from, of all the jokes and all the craziness, that Jesus loves you. And he wants to meet you. And often we think it's a one-way relationship. Maybe you're hurting and you need God to help you in your finances or your marriage. And we come to Jesus and we almost look at him like a celebrity. I remember the first time I didn't meet him, I saw him in person, Leonardo DiCaprio. I was like, awestruck. He had 3 big bodyguards around him. I remember touching him on the shoulder. I turned around so he wouldn't know it was me. I just wanted to touch a celebrity. And I remember taking a selfie with him in the background. And what's so funny is I had him in my phone. He didn't have me in his phone.
Right.
See, sometimes we think that's our passion to Jesus one way. Jesus is more passionate about meeting you than you are about meeting him. He loves you and longs to know you. He knows the hairs on your head. He formed you in your mother's womb. He knew you before you were born. He wants to meet you. And I don't know about you, but when I first came to church, I thought Jesus only wanted to meet good people. People who are educated, people who have their life together, people whose life is not messy. Jesus wants to meet you no matter who you are, no matter what you've done. It's not just messy people, it's every people. And I love that this story, which is the greatest news in the world, that Jesus, who does he tell first? In a culture that views women as property, in a culture that views women as less than. I'm not saying that they are, I'm saying the culture did. Jesus gives the best news in the world to women. That communicates something about who Jesus wants to be included and who he wants to meet. I get asked all the time, because my wife and I, we pastor this church together. Do you believe women can preach? Yes. Why, Pastor Ali? This text right here. Jesus does not say to the women, write this down because you're not allowed to tell them. He doesn't say, write this news down. He says, go and tell them the news. The word tell is proclaim. That word is preach. Why do I believe women can preach? Because Jesus told them to. The first preacher of the gospel, the resurrection of Jesus, is a woman. And that's not my main point. My main point is no matter who you are, no matter your background, no matter your past, Jesus wants to meet you. And the same passion that we have for wanting to meet celebrities, Jesus has that passion to want to meet you. Number 1, meet Jesus. Number 2, hear Jesus. Someone say, hear Jesus.
Hear Jesus.
Jesus says in the very next verse, greetings, he said. I remember when I was a Muslim, I'd watch the Pope travel through Italy. He would sit in a car and he'd stick out his hand and people would kiss his hand and people were like, I met the Pope, but they never talked. You'd have this brief interaction where you'd touch him, but there was no conversation. And when life is hard, when life is painful, you need the voice of your Father. See, there are 2 gospels in America preached. One is the prosperity gospel, one's the real gospel. The prosperity gospel is if you believe in Jesus, he's going to make you rich and remove all your pain and sickness and suffering. But the real gospel is that God sometimes doesn't remove the pain. Sometimes he doesn't remove the cancer. Sometimes he doesn't make you rich. Sometimes he doesn't. And what he does instead is he holds your hand and stands with you in the pain. He stands with you in the suffering. And it's not that he gives you an epidural. Some of you women who give birth, the pain from the waist down is gone. God doesn't give you a spiritual epidural where all the pain goes away. He's a midwife. He stands next to you and says, I'm not leaving you. I'm not forsaking you. It's the voice of the Father that brings comfort. The beginning of the pandemic, every Friday would be daddy-daughter date. At the time, a year ago, 56 weeks ago, my oldest was 4 and my youngest was 1. And I distinctly remember the youngest was too young to walk, so I had to go with a double stroller. Now, a year later, I'm having to keep up with these guys. They're like running away. I bought I bought scooters for both of them. And this last Friday, I'm going to show you this picture in a moment. This last Friday, they're at the park and they're like running around on their scooter. And the oldest is like 5 now. She's like super fast. The youngest is too young to really be fast. So what she does is she picks up the scooter and starts chasing after the older one because that's how fast she can run faster than she can scoot. And during this play date, she falls over and it's the first time she scraped both of her knees. And if you're a dad, you know when your kids cry like that, like pain, I'm not even looking at my daughter, but I just can tell from her cry something's wrong. I run over, I pick her up. I don't have Band-Aids. I don't have Neosporin. I don't have anything to clean the wound. It's my voice. Zoe, I'm here. That calmed her down. I'm telling you, God doesn't remove the pain. But with all the pain, with all the suffering, God doesn't just want you to meet him and kiss his hand. That's not God. Right. God wants to speak to you. Yeah. That's why the Holy Spirit is called a comforter. It's not the blanket you put on yourself when you go to bed at night. Right. You need to be comforted in times of pain. That's what Jesus wants to do. He wants to meet you. He wants to speak to you. Number 1, meet Jesus. Number 2, hear Jesus. Number 3, worship Jesus. The very next verse says, they came to him, the women, clasped his feet and worshiped him. And maybe you're new to Christianity, maybe you're new to church, you're like, you Christians are weird, you worship. Let me redefine worship for you. Yeah. Everybody worships. Yeah. Christians worship Jesus, you worship something, bro. Right. No, I don't. Trust me. Anything that gets your time, your attention, your focus, that's worship. Because this is how you know you're worshiping something. When you get it, it feels like heaven. When you don't have it, it feels like hell. See, some of you worship your body. Yeah. And when you can't work out, that feels like hell. Some of you worship money. And when you have it, it feels like heaven. And when you don't, it feels like hell. This is why Christians can be in pain. They can lose their job. They can be in cancer. But they still have Jesus. They can still be worshiping. Because worshiping is not based on circumstance. It's based on a relationship with the living God. Yeah. And I know when someone comes to me for the very first time that they're new to the faith. Like, oh, I love church. I just don't like that worship part, that singing we do in the front. And I'm like, no, bro. Worship is a lifestyle. Yeah. You keeping your pants on during a relationship, that's worship. You forgiving your enemies instead of wanting to get revenge, that's worship. Yeah. When you go into work and doing an honest day's job with hard work and integrity, that's worship. Yeah. You giving God the tithe, that your lifestyle. It's not just if you can't sing songs, that's the easy part of worship, bro. Everything else is the hard part of worship because worship is a lifestyle. Yeah. And these women, they meet Jesus, they hear Jesus, and number 3, they worship Jesus. Number 4, if you're ready for this, they obey Jesus. Someone say, obey Jesus. Obey Jesus. Then Jesus tell them, do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers. Go preach to them the resurrection. You're a preacher, go and preach. Go to Galilee, there they will see me. And these women start a revival because the men are scared. The men are hiding. The men are in fear. But the women come and preach good news. The women come after 3 days of death, after 3 days of darkness, when it's darkest, when it's darkest, the darker the night, the brighter the morning. And the women bring the hope, the dawn of light to the men. Yeah. And I'm trying to convince some people that come into this church, Silicon Valley is not going to change when Pastor Ali and Pastor Yasmin start sharing their faith. Right. You're called to preach. Yeah. You're called to share your faith. It says in Ephesians chapter 4 that God gave apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers. Why? To equip the saints for the work of the ministry. Yeah, which means in reality, I'm Kyle Shanahan. I'm on the sidelines. Okay. You guys are the 49ers. You guys are doing the work of the ministry. My job is to coach you. My job is to encourage you. You're the royal priesthood. You're the holy nation. You're called to evangelize, to do the work of the ministry. Silicon Valley is never going to change when I do the work. And that's what Jesus is trying to get. My job is done. I did ministry. Now I'm leaving. I'm giving you the Holy Spirit. I'm giving you hope. I'm giving you life so that you can go share to a world that is hurting, a world that has no hope, a world that only has dawn. Bring light to them. Bring hope to them. The end of the story is not the brokenness of your marriage. The end of the story is not the death of a loved one. The end of the story is that Jesus conquered death so you'll see them again. That He will come again. That the story is not over. That's what Easter's about. And I love that Jesus comes and He meets them. They hear Jesus. They obey, worship Jesus. And then they they obey Jesus, and these women go and tell the disciples. And within 300 years, these uneducated men flip the world upside down. Wow. But I want to show you this one part because it's so relevant to our culture. In Matthew chapter 28, verse 11, it says, while the women were on their way, because they obeyed Jesus, some of the guards went into the city and reported to the chief priest everything that had happened. That they fell over and pretended they died because an angel came, an earthquake, all this craziness. Soaring over the Old Testament. When the chief priests had met with the elders and devised a plan, they gave the soldiers a large sum of money, telling them, you are to say, his disciples came during the night and stole him away while you were asleep. If this report gets to the governor, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble. So the soldiers took the money and did as they were instructed. And this story, which is a fake story, by the way, has been widely circulated among the Jews to this day. This last idea that I have for you is fake news is nothing new. I know it's political to say that, but fake news is nothing new. American news media is based on marketing, and marketing sells you two things, desire and fear. Desire is you don't have enough. Your life is not complete until you drive this car, until you have this hair product. You have an iPhone 11, you peasant. You need the iPhone 12. Your life is not complete until you have this, and it's never enough. You're always out of reach of happiness because they're selling you desire, but they also sell you fear. Whatever bleeds, reads. That's why when you're on the highway and you see a car accident, everyone slows down because we're captivated by bad news, unfortunately. And the media knows this, so they're selling you fear. They're selling you desire. And my focus for you this morning is, my question is, what are you focused on? Because you're not going to get faith from CNN. Faith doesn't come from bad news. Faith comes from hearing, and hearing the Word of God. I know life is hard. I know you lost a loved one. I know marriage is difficult. But to get the faith, to get the hope, is not going to come from watching the news. And I'm not saying don't be educated, don't be informed, but fake news is nothing new. And what's so crazy is these women, they go tell all the disciples, and these men that were scared, these men that had abandoned the faith, they begin to tell everyone. And on the first day of Christianity, 3,000 people get saved. And these people, they try to hide the fact that Jesus was resurrected. And maybe you're new to church and you're exploring. There are three options that are available to you. That Jesus was dead and someone stole the body. That the enemies of God stole it, or his friends. And option number 3 is he is who he says he is. He's not a good man, he's the God man. Let's explore the 3 options. Let's say the enemies of God stole the body. Why wouldn't they come out and say, your faith is fake, we have the body? No one's ever found the body of Jesus. Maybe it was the disciples. Maybe they stole the body. Maybe this whole thing is a lie. Listen, I came out of Islam. This is going to be politically incorrect. But in Islam, if you kill yourself as a martyr, you go to heaven. I know people, because I came out of it, that will die for what they think is true. But I've never met anyone that will die for what they think is a lie. Because if you punish them, if you torture them, eventually they crack and be like, let me tell you what really happened. 10 of the 12 disciples were murdered, were tortured, and none of them recounted the story. These uneducated men who had no education, who had no money, they had no incentive to lie. They were cowards on Friday. Peter denied Jesus to a 13-year-old girl. Said, I don't know this guy. 3 times he did it. And then on Sunday, this lion arises. This warrior who's not afraid anymore. What happened? What happened on Friday that didn't happen on Sunday? The resurrected king. The Easter story is not a one-day story. It's a 3-day story. And so you got 3 options. The enemy stole his body, his friends are alive, and I'm saying neither of those could be possible. The only option is that he is who he says he is, that he's God. My question for you is, what are you focused on, Christian? Because whatever you focus on, more of that's going to be produced. If you focus on the news, more fear, more doubt, more questions. But if you focus on the Word of God, faith comes from hearing, Some of you just need some hope today. Some of you need some encouragement today. That without the resurrection, listen, the cross is just death. Just the ending of one man's life. It only makes sense because of the resurrection. The bad news is even better in the context. The good news is even better because of the bad news. Søren Kierkegaard said this. He's a Danish theologian. He says, life can only be understood backwards, but must be lived forward. See, my encouragement to you is you already know the ending. You already know you're going to be in eternity. No matter what you suffer, no matter what happens financially, no matter what happens to your family, this is not the end. Your pain is not the end of the story. That pain is temporary. That you're going to spend eternity with God. And some of you are pushing back, saying, I'm not experiencing that, Ali. Let me read you Psalm 91, which is one of the most encouraging verses in the entire Bible. Verse 16 says, because he loves me, says the Lord, I will rescue him. I will protect him, for he acknowledges my name. He will call on me, and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. Long life. Someone say, with long life. I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. Some of you are like, Pastor Ali, you're selling me sheep wool. I don't experience. My parents died of COVID. I lost my job. My marriage is harder than it was today. And I'm trying to encourage you. This verse is true because of the resurrection. Let me tell you why. Because yes, Jesus has the power to heal. But even if he doesn't, in this lifetime, he will in the next. Because there's going to be a day where he's going to wipe away every tear. There's going to be a day where there'll be no more pain, no more suffering, no more death. Psalm 91 is true because of the resurrection. I will live a long life with God, no matter what I experience, because of the resurrection. I know that the world is dark right now, but in other news, Jesus is the light of the world. I know there's death and decay, but in other news, our God conquered death. I know that the economy's crashing and there's a lot of job loss, but in other news, our God is still a provider. I know that there's death in our families, death with our loved ones, but in other news, because of the resurrection, we're going to see them again one day. I know it looks dark with my dreams. I know it looks dark in my relationships, but because of Jesus, in other news, he can bring dead things back to life. Bad news makes good news even better. Your confession is contagious. And there's fake news is nothing new. So no matter how dark the pain, no matter how painful life is, the resurrection gives me hope. That's not the end of the story. That we already know how this ending is. That it's Jesus. That there's hope. Let me quickly pray for you. God, thank you so much for the resurrection. That no matter the pain, no matter the obstacle, no matter the setbacks, no matter what has happened, there is always hope at the end of the tunnel. Dawn is coming. Because you conquered the grave. That's the ending. That death lost its sting. That suffering will end one day. That pain will end. There will be no more sickness, no more death, because you defeated the grave, Jesus. You didn't just give us good teaching. You gave us your life, and you didn't stay dead. You came back. You give us hope. God, we're in desperate need of hope. God, we can be encouraged by Mr. P in Italy, but we need hope, or resurrection hope this Easter. Better than just surviving Corona, better than surviving the Spanish flu. You survived death, Jesus. You were dead, but you came back. You are in the business of bringing dead things back to life. God, my faith is dead. God, my marriage is dead. God, my finances are dead. But that's not the end of the story. You bring dead things back to life.
'Cause your name is victory. So all praise will rise to Christ our King. Your name, 'cause your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ. Can we sing this verse together? I love this. The tomb where soldiers watched in vain, yeah, was borrowed for 3 days. Yes, it was. His body there would not remain. And here's why. 'Cause our God is robbed the grave. Declare that today. Our God is robbed the grave. We worship you, Jesus. Yes, you have. Yes, you have, God. Come on, there's victory. In other news, there's victory. We sing, your name is victory. You're worthy of our praise. All praise will rise to Christ our King. It's his name. 'Cause your name, whatever you're facing, your name is victory. All praise will rise to Christ our King. By his Spirit and by your Spirit I will rise from the ashes of defeat. The resurrected King, he's still resurrecting me. And in your name I come alive to declare your victory. The resurrected King is resurrecting me. One more time. The resurrected King, he's still resurrecting me.
Today is a holy moment for some of you because Jesus wants to meet you. He wants you to hear his voice. He wants you to worship him and obey him. And the work of a Christian is not to do anything, just to simply believe. And if you've been feeling that tug on your heart as I've been preaching that God loves you and wants a relationship with you, this is that moment where I want to extend an invitation for you to become a Christian. You guys can bow your heads and close your eyes. Just pray this prayer in your heart. Jesus, I believe that you are who you say you are. That you're not a good man. That you're the God man. That you left heaven to come and die for me. You didn't stay dead. You came back. You conquered hell, death, and the grave for me. And the angel rolled the stone away, not so that you can come out, so that my doubt could be rolled away so that I could come in. I believe, Jesus. I want to meet you. I want to hear your voice. I want to worship you and obey you. In Jesus' name, amen. If that was you this morning, we want to celebrate with you on this Easter Sunday. Text csjesus to 97,000. We want to help you on this spiritual journey. We want nothing from you, but we got a gift for you. It's this book called Following Jesus. It's a book we give away for free. We want to help you on this spiritual journey of following Jesus. And this is also a time where we want to take up our tithes and offerings. And for some of you, you've never given to God. Listen, worship is not the songs that we sing. It's a lifestyle. It's the way we love. It's the way we forgive. It's the way we work. It's the way we handle money. It's all worship. So Jesus, we want to worship you on this Easter Sunday. Not just with songs, God, but with our life. Would you take our tithes and offerings as an act of our worship? We've met you. We've heard you, Jesus. And now this is our worship to you because we want to obey you. God, you are a giver. You gave your son to die for us, and we want to be a giver, not because we're trying to earn love, but because we already have it. Would you use these tithes and offerings, God, to make your name famous in the most unchurched region in the entire country, Silicon Valley? May your name be lifted up. May your name give hope to those who are hopeless. That as dark as our life is right now, dawn is coming. The tomb is empty and there is news to tell. Be blessed, church.
Woo, what a fire word, right? Pastor Lee brings it week after week. What did you think about it?
I loved it. Starting off the week right, feeling refreshed. And we just invite you to come and see what one of our in-person gatherings is all about. We thank you for joining us and have a happy Easter.